Hello and welcome to episode 20 of Let's Play Scribblenauts. I'm your host, Unique You Guy. Let's get rolling here as we try to fall down this chasm precisely. And someone did mention a beanstalk, which I had never thought of, and it came off as something that I wouldn't have even tried had someone not mentioned it, even though it might have been in the list of items that I found somewhere. As for falling slower as opposed to using a flying item, I'll try to keep the parachute on the screen this time instead of falling behind the mountains in the background, which happens on an emulator but not on actual software, which is generally one of my only problems with doing this on an emulator, but there's no real other way to show you guys if I did this on hardware, which is a shame. So, the game kind of tries to throw a few things, because this is the mishmash stage. There's a whole bunch of different ideas from the different stages of the past, kind of all strewn together in this one world. So, there's a few different cool ideas. I mean, this one, the floor moves with you, so you have to try to make sure your starlight's secure, or you get it up to you without moving at all. So, there's a couple of other things, like you have our beasties with scuba gear, which is relatively interesting in my opinion, even though they don't need it. So I'm just going to create our god of lightning to take care of anything in the water. He does happen to have a bad reaction to vampires, though. Poor Zeus. Poor vampire Zeus. So let's just get him out of here. Put him out of his misery. And make some lightning to take care of that switch, so we don't have to deal with our Dracula underwater. Alright, now let's just rock out these buttons and take care of that real quick. And if we move too quickly, those giant spike balls would come and kill us. So remember to take your time. As for here, I didn't really understand what it meant by choose wiser, with the X-ray specs being the answer. I could have sworn it would have been the video game, or the award, but that's just me. And that's a Robosar. Why didn't I think of a Robosar? That's just one wasted opportunity in this game. There it is, folks. Something that I wish I would have figured out. That's this game, though. It's always throwing you for a loop, especially with obscure things like that, and Edison, and all the other really obscure things they created themselves that you wouldn't really find or come across unless, someone told you about them, or whatever reason you typed in that name. But here's another thing that I never got to show off before, is steel cages and other things don't melt in lava. So that's something useful for you guys. But like I was saying, this game will always surprise you in the concept that you never really know all of the things in this game. I'm sure there are several people who went out of their way to try and, figure out a whole bunch of the different things and know what they do, and there was a project online to find out the attack power of every creature by finding the weakest and then moving up from there, using it as units of measure. There's a couple of really interesting projects that I wouldn't have even thought of looking into had it not been for LPing this game, which makes me happy about it. I mean, there was the whole racism thing with Sambo. There's a whole lot of news for this game. And that's not to say I'm going to do games as they come out, because I find that really problematic for a whole bunch of different reasons. I just thought, I played through this game fairly quickly and realized, I could probably do this quite well as opposed to some other guy. So I wanted to get it done and get it done quickly to kind of put myself out there in a manner that caters to my talents. So I hope this LP has done that for me, and I hope you've all enjoyed it. But we're going to get to something a little bit more interesting here. And now for something completely different. Did you know I run on about 8 to 10 cups of coffee per day? It's true. I'm not into those fancy designer coffee places. Just give me an old-fashioned diner and a cup of joe and I'll be set. It's not that I don't like fancy places, it's just with coffee I'd rather have it simple. Now steakhouses. I love a great steakhouse. Can't beat a $50 hunk of meat. Unless you're a vegetarian, but then I guess if you are, you don't really have a need for steak. To each his own, my dad used to say. And I live by that rule. Well, at least most of the time. Can a person really be so one-dimensional that they live by a singular difficult rule? I mean, in a world that has so many shades of gray, we're not cartoon characters. In the real world, heroes have flaws and our villains can have plausible motives. Really, though, in the greater scheme of things, everyone should just live by the golden rule. If they did, life would be wonderful. Except when you put a Python-esque speech in my game. How dare you? I was just trying to go along playing a nice puzzle game, and you have to interrupt my game with your drinking and eating habits. Now, personally, I would think it's ridiculous for a person to spend $50 on a hunk of meat. I mean, that's just crazy. That is a lot of money for a singular food item when you can feed people in another country for days. Days. I've run on. This stage was fairly simple. And Python. So, we just have our simple objective of getting to the start now that we've managed to make everything happen the way the game intended. I'm not sure how they intended a person to do that level normally, but oh my, I want to be the guy. They've done it. So let's see, do I know an item that's 1 pixel big? Because I think I might need it. Nothing breaks steel spikes. Yeah, alright folks, till next time, this is your host, UniQ Guy, and this has been Let's Play Scribblenauts.